Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Some Spoiled, A Song of Ice and Fire 2, the co-host Switcheroo, the rereading Return to Westeros, HBO spoiler edition, uncut, uncensored, and too sneezy for your earpods. In this episode, we are going to be covering A Dance with Dragons, chapters 28 and 29, Jon and Davos. These chapters, Jon has a weird encounter with Melisandre and then fights Rattleshirt, who whoops his ass. And then we find out Davos is indeed still alive and Manderly isn't at all what we thought he was. Welcome to Unspoiled.
Monsters are dangerous, and just now kings are dying like flies.
I am the king!
Fuck the king.
Welcome to the show, everyone. I am Natasha.
I'm Rashawn.
So everybody, just apologies. I sound like shit. I may sneeze. I'm going to try and timestamp my sneezes so I edit them out, but I might miss some. So I really am so sorry if you hear me sneezing directly into your ear hole. It was not my intent. And I will pay the price eventually, I'm sure. I don't know why. So, Rashawn, what did you think about these two chapters? You had predicted that Davos wasn't dead, so
Yes, I felt
not a surprise.
Yeah, I felt vindicated. I get so much wrong in these books. You know, I tend to be wildly mistaken, and it was nice to have a moment of being like, okay, I was reading that right. Okay, I didn't fall for the okie doke. You're trying to pull a fast one, but I didn't fall for it. The Jon chapter. I was worried. I was concerned. I'm like, what? Like, trying to fight Rattleshirt after he just exerted all that energy fighting those three dudes. And, like, I'm giving him a pass because he had just fought three kids that weren't very good. So I don't know if Jon was, like, a little winded or what, or if he just secretly doesn't have the fight in him anymore. I don't know. I was surprised that he did that poorly against Rattleshirt because we all know and have seen, you know, what a badass Jon is. So I had some questions about how that all went. And also, it's just not a great look getting sunned like that in front of everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody was outside watching. It's like getting beat up on the block and everybody's on the stoop watching. It's hard to recover from that.
Yeah, you need to start doing some, like, politics to revive your image afterward. That's
how you get a nickname that follows you for the rest of your life. Like...
Oh, man. Yeah, and so this chapter, like, Jon's chapter starts off with him telling Alliser Thorne to go out ranging. And Alliser is like, oh, okay, I see how it is. You want me to die.
Giving me a very fancy death sentence.
Yeah. Once we're back in Jon's head, he very much is like, I am aware it's likely we won't see them again. But it doesn't seem like that's the
motivation.
Goal.
This is not a death sentence for Alistair, right? Jon is not actively wishing for the failure of these missions because he needs this to be successful, you know, in the sort of big picture of it all. But Alistair is not a big picture guy. He's a how does this affect me guy. So
very much so.
You know,
and I think he doesn't understand that Jon isn't as petty as he is.
No, not at all.
So he's reading what Jon does exactly through his lens of why would I be doing this?
Exactly. Yeah. I appreciated that having that moment of Jon reflecting about how, like, no, I would really like it if they all made it home safely with, like, news that I could use. That would be great. But instead, the reality is they probably won't return, and that sucks. But yeah, Alistair is not the kind of man who has the capacity to think outside of his own self-interest. You know,
Exactly.
he just doesn't. So the other guys and the other guys that are going are like, yeah, it's about fucking time. I get to go do some shit, because sitting around here not doing nothing is for the birds, man. This shit is whack. Let's go.
I really do enjoy that. They're just so excited to finally be in the mix.
Mm-hmm.
And Alistair, meanwhile, is just like, well, this is a death sentence. And these guys are just like, a death sentence? It was a death sentence sitting on my ass back at the fucking tower.
Right?
What do you mean?
Alistair Thorne is all like, well, even if the fucking whites get me, I'm going to be back to haunt your ass, Jon Snow. I'll be back. It's just like, what?
I just find that pretty funny. It's just like, they don't forget. I was like, don't they?
They don't seem, exactly. They seem like the only fucking thing they understand is however they're controlled, whatever that magic is. That's it. They're puppets, right? The idea that he is out here thinking that they have their own agency is wild.
Really weird. Really, really weird.
Because if that's the case, sir, why are they all just hanging around in the north waiting to be told it's time to, like, you know, descend upon whatever area and, you know, and kill as many people as you can? Why aren't they all just going back home?
That's a good question.
What do you think is happening, sir?
Returning to their families like they were raised by the monkey's paw.
You know, it's... We should do an episode of The Monkey's Paw and all the ways it shows up in pop culture and, like, all the weirdness and just, like... Because it just shows up in so many places. It's so ubiquitous.
It's true.
I don't even know what the real story. I don't even know what the real story of the monkey's paw is. I only know it from being referenced in 8 million sitcoms.
I'm gonna go into the unsober topics and put monkey's paw.
We will never remember why that came up as a topic. When we were just looking at the old list and we were like, "What were we thinking? Why is this on the list?"
So many things. Just like, this is not.
This isn't anything. Why did I write this down? Cursed wishes. So, put that in. Like,
what's that?
Cursed wishes. Put that in parentheses next to the monkey paw, so we know.
I really feel like that's implied. If it's monkey's paw, you know it's a cursed wish. Like,
all right, I'm gonna trust you.
Famous last words. So they take off, and he just watches them leave, and then he heads down, and he's with Dolorous Ed, who's like, I had such a fucking nightmare last night, dude. I was Lord Commander, and it fucking sucked. You were the one who was, like, waiting on me. And I love this because, like, it feels... You could very easily just be like, he's just making it funny. But, like, it seems to me very much like...
It feels like his very awkward Dolorous Ed way of saying, dude, I see how much this whole situation sucks, and I feel bad for you, and I'm so glad it's not me. Like, I appreciate how terrible your situation is. But because he is Dolorous Ed, it comes out like this. And truly, this is what we're here for, right? This is what we are expecting from him. So I would have been disappointed if he had conveyed this information in any other way. I would have found it disappointing. It would have been like, oh, that's not how Ed would have said that.
Is that how you say you say Dolores, like the name? Dolores.
I do say it. I say it like the name. You say it like the other way. I don't know what's right. I don't listen to the audiobook, so I don't know.
I honestly don't remember how he says it in the audiobooks. I just like to know how things are pronounced, you know? Like,
yeah. Well, the fun thing about that is I'm assuming that this is an adjective of some kind. Even though it's his name, I'm wondering if this is a legitimate word that you could just look up.
Oh, it is.
Oh, well, then how do you say
it's
it?
It's a real word.
Oh, then just ask how
That's
you say it.
That's what I'm saying. I'm going to the dictionary. Hold on, I'm playing the thing. Dolorous. Okay, so I was getting it right. Okay. Meaning mournful, woeful, doleful, sorrowful, sad, depressed. Because I know that I think it was the Hunger Games episode. said, I think it was like, I said bravado, and it's supposed to be bravado.
Oh yeah, it's
Cam
bravado.
pointed out. But I can't remember where I got that it was bravado. Cam thinks that Brendan, way back in the Mists of Time, said it that way, and I just like picked it up. But I just like to say things correctly.
I know. I appreciate that about you. It is against everything in my being to really correct people in their pronunciation of words. So that's why I just let you say whatever. But I know that drives you crazy. And you probably would prefer for me to say, to correct you in real time. I'm just never going to do. I'm very, very rarely ever going to do that. It's just not how I'm built. It's just not.
All right. I guess. So yeah, that little back and forth. John doesn't even smile. He's like, that's not funny. It does suck. Don't make a joke out of it. My pain. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what it feels like a little bit. He just takes himself so seriously. I don't hate him for it, but it's a reality about who he is. This is something that I really tends to sort of make me dislike a character right away, in a way that's like not exactly fair. It's just so completely my personal taste, but I don't take anything seriously, mostly. And so whenever I run across a character who takes themselves really seriously, I always just kind of feel like,
you don't think you take things seriously?
I take some things seriously in like, but I don't feel like I take myself that seriously.
Oh, I see the distinction you're making. Gotcha.
You know what I mean? Gotcha. And this is like, to pick an example that I know you will appreciate, like Bill on True Blood. He takes himself so seriously.
Oh my God, he's so fucking. Ugh. He's so tedious.
Yeah. And I just, it's like a less fun mind to be inside of. It's not like I feel he doesn't deserve to be serious about the things that matter to him, because he's dealing with some really like serious issues. So he should take it this way. Mm-hmm. He's got a lot of responsibilities on his shoulders. This is like a genuine issue.
Oh yeah, but he's like the world sitting on his
even
shoulders.
When things are funny. You know, he's always thinking about like, he makes this laugh, or makes this joke, but he won't be laughing when he's, you know, sitting in the cold and the dark with the others coming at him. Like, he can't just like let things be a joke.
Yeah, no, never. He can never separate himself from the sort of weight that he carries. Mm-hmm, you know, it just it taints everything that he comes into contact. Every conversation, every word, everything with John is mired in the just unimaginable task he has in front of him, which is to somehow save the world. Granted, that's a very, very big ask, which is why I think, to your point, we're not like really judging him about it. Like, we get it.
Yes, exactly.
But there's also like there's so the weight of what he's carrying, the task before him, it's so fucking relentless that you're like desperate for a moment. Give me just a sliver, yep. You know, and you just don't get them in these POV. His chapters, like, they never take the foot off the gas. With John chapters, it's just one thing after the other, after the other, after the other, you know? And you're just like, can we get a minute to breathe? And George Martin is like, yeah, no, not in this chapter. Maybe I'll give you a Tyrion chapter in a day or two, and then you can breathe and have a giggle. But right now, that's not what we're doing.
When, like, after John is just like, your nightmare, my life, he starts thinking about exactly what it is that has gone so wrong. That lately everybody is asking for more men, and he is like, I don't know where they think I'm gonna get them from.
Like, I'm just hiding men. Like they're right? Like he's just hiding. Like he has them. He's just hiding them. Like a surprise dungeon filled with men that he's just waiting for the perfect moment to spring on everybody. Like we know he
Exactly.
had sent men to these other castles, and it wasn't a lot. And he gets these letters back from each one, and he had sent wildlings, and the guys at the castles are just like, what the fuck? I asked you for more men, and what did you send me? You sent me, first of all, they're not even men of the Night Watch, and then they're like old and infirm, or too young,
Yup.
or too green. Like, you sent me nothing but mouths to feed, and also you didn't send me enough of them, which is a weird
Yep.
complaint, because they're salty about what they got, but also salty they didn't get more of them.
Which feels like a very like real sort of you're never going to be happy kind of attitude. Just like, well, if you're
Like, you
going to
can't
do
win.
the thing, like fucked up thing, at least do the fucked up thing more. What do you
Right,
mean?
yeah.
What?
Yeah. And again, like I said, it's just this is how John's life, this is what his life is now. It's just
Yep.
bad news. That's all. John, bad
That's
news,
true.
John. That's all it is.
John. Yeah, he's got a real upward battle, I guess is what they would say. Uphill battle?
Uphill.
Uphill battle's bad, right? Is that a bad thing?
It's to imply a lot of struggle. You're not going to have an easy go of it. It's going to be a fight the whole time.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Which is weird, because then you would think, well, the opposite would be true, and you're like, oh, that's going to be a real downhill battle. But that's also bad.
That's what I was confused about. Exactly. I was like about to say uphill battle, and then I was like, wait a minute. I feel like every time people say downhill battle, that's the bad thing. So maybe uphill battle is a good thing, but all right. Anyway, everybody who heard us talking about is it coming down the pike or down the pipe
is already over our bullshit. They have already cut the podcast off.
Everybody is just like, ugh, let me find somebody who knows what words are, for Christ's sake. And to them I say, you are a bigot and a hell beast. So this eventually leads to him. There's a real sense for me. I don't know that this is exactly what's happening, but he's just like fucking in a mood and wants to fight somebody. And, like get some of this out of his system was sort of the subtext for me in a way of what was happening here.
Yes. Yeah, you know what? I agree with that, but I also have a little bit of a different take because of the way we get to this moment. Because it starts out with just these wonderful memories that he has of Winterfell, of practicing with Rob in the yard and all that stuff. And so it starts out kind of nice. Yeah. And then it goes into how awful everything is now, so it starts with these wonderful warm memories, and then he's like, because he's remembering Sir Roderick, and then he's like, but he's dead now, just like every fucking body else is dead now. Yeah. Everybody is dead, and all my memories are poisoned. And then that's the energy that's the moment he's in when he asks to, like, who are your strongest 3 fighters. But again, like, all roads lead to bad news with John. All memories, whatever thought pops into his head, if you give him enough time, it's going to end up at everything fucking sucks. Everything is terrible. Who can I hit with a sword real quick?
I really liked the line, all my memories are poisoned, too. It just, that's something that I feel like, even if you don't have this kind of horrible event in your history, we can run into sometimes. We're trying to have like a moment of like, oh, wasn't it nice when so-and-so, if somebody died, for example, and you're having like, and then you have to tell half the memory.
Yep.
In your little eulogy, because the whole memory isn't great.
Yep.
And you would like to just be able to remember that one part, but life is what it is, and you gotta you gotta just live with the rest of it.
That's why memory is like such a double-edged sword, like it's when I think about someone who doesn't have any memory of their life, and you think, oh my God, how could you live like that? But also, what would it be like to live like that?
Yeah. Very eternal sunshine of the spotless mind. Is it better to keep that sad grief or wipe it clean and not remember things that in many other ways mattered to you.
Right.
So he is like, all right, I want Aaron, Emmerich, and Jace for my little fight here. And they're like, okay, who do you want first? And he's like, no, all three of you at once. And Jace says, that wouldn't be fair. And John says, true, come here. When he did, John's blade slammed him alongside his head, knocking him off his feet. In the blink of an eye, the boy had a boot on his chest and a sword point at his throat. War is never fair, John told him. It's 2-on-1 now, and you're dead.
John, yeah, he's showing off a little bit.
I need you to just dial it back a tiny bit.
He's doing a little bit of showing off, trying to blow off some steam. I don't know what impact he thinks this is going to have on the men that are watching. I don't know if he's is this like, I don't think John is even thinking about the people who are watching. I think
you're right.
He is really just in his own head processing his own very, very big feelings about the way everything has gone, what he has to accomplish, the very limited resources he has to try to accomplish that thing, how no one is ever happy with any of his decisions. Like, he's just kind of in his own shit right now. Which is how we end up getting him fighting fucking Rattleshirt in front of everybody, wildly unprepared for this fight and getting his ass handed to him because he's not thinking about the optics at all.
And that's part of it as well, is like, you know, I don't know that I would mind him playing things this way if it weren't for how much he gets his ass handed to him later. It's just sort of extra embarrassing after pulling a kind of lecture here. Not lecture, that's wrong, but you know what I'm saying. He's like trying to really like make a point, and I feel like it wouldn't have been so bad, him getting completely creamed, if it weren't for this moment.
Yeah,
he just had to like bring it to a level where it's sort of cringy to remember now.
You know, and when he was fighting the three kids, because they're kids, let's be clear.
Yeah.
He is critiquing their fighting style. And it's not coming from like a place of like, he's not being malicious about it. He's like, oh, these two will make Rangers. You know, this other guy, I don't know about him. You know, oh, he got me in this moment. That's going to leave a bruise. Oh, this kid, he's quick, you know, but he needs to get stronger. So even while he's in his own head in this larger moment, while he's fighting the guys, he's still kind of, I guess, having a leader's eye and really trying to clock who can do what and how he might use them in the future and who has potential and who doesn't have potential. So I was kind of like, all right, John, I'm going to let you have this. Like, I'm going to let you have this whole thing. But then we get the Rattleshirt situation, and I can't co-sign this.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so he handles them in short order, and Rattleshirt's there going, oh, yeah, wow, so impressive. They're fucking children. And I bet you wouldn't want to go up against somebody who's your own size. And no, let's go ahead. Let's do this. At first he just says, you flatter yourself. I like that. But I'd flatten you. Stannis burned the wrong man.
That is...
Burn the man had to burn for all the world. Do what we have to do, Snow.
Yeah. That Stannis burned the wrong man, though. That hit. I was like, oh snap! We just okay, we fighting, all right. Because honestly, imagine somebody saying that to you, like, you know, if you're in a friend group or a family group and someone passes away and then someone tells you to your face the wrong person died, like, oof. How do you don't come back from that.
There's I think I told you about that movie Walk Hard. That's like
Mhm.
a spoof of, and one of the bits that I thought was so funny is that the main character, as in both Ray and I believe Walk the Line, had a younger brother who died in a way that they felt responsible for.
Mhm.
And so this character's dad just says the wrong kid died. Like every time they talk, it's just like part of his dialogue. And at one point, he comes home without warning and doesn't tell his father he's even coming, and kind of is coming up behind him while his dad is like repainting the barn. And his dad is just singing, the wrong kid died, the wrong kid died. And that's just apparently like what he sings to himself when he's alone even.
Oh,
And I
Jesus
just found
Christ.
that so funny.
Oh.
Anyway, so this is when we get John taken by surprise.
Yeah.
John really thought he knew what he was getting into here.
Yeah.
And he is quickly shown that he did not have the measure of this guy. He thought he did. And either he was very wrong or there's been some terrible mistake.
Yeah. He was fighting so well. Rattleshirt is fighting so well. And John is so surprised. I got caught up in John's surprise, and I literally thought that we were going to get some kind of reveal that this motherfucker was using magic. Like John is so unprepared for how well he fights and how strong Rattleshirt is and how fast he is. I thought we were about to get some kind of line about, I don't know what, but I thought we were about to get like, oh, he's using magic. He's, using something. But it turns out, I think that no, he's just very good and John was unprepared.
Yes. Yes. Or if he is using magic, we don't know about it. That is not actually revealed. Yeah, the whole way that this goes, like the crowd watching at first is cheering John on. And then as it becomes clear he isn't keeping up, the yard starts to go quiet.
Yeah.
And there's like...
Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
No, please.
I was just going to say that there's a moment where John is just like, wait a minute, he doesn't have a shield. And his sword is so fucking big and heavy for the way he's parrying. I should be landing 2 blows for every one of his, but I'm not. And the blows that I'm landing aren't having any effect. And this guy seems to always be moving away or sliding away. So my sword is just glancing off of him. That's when I was like, oh, clearly there's magic. Because the laws of physics don't seem to be applying in this fight. So.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. Yeah. It's he's too strong and too quick, and with that great sword he has weight and reach on me. His chance came on Rattleshirt's next backswing. John threw himself forward, bowling into the other man, and they went down together, legs entangled. Steel slammed on steel. Both men lost their swords as they rolled on the hard ground. The wildling drove a knee between John's legs. John lashed out with a mailed fist. Somehow, Rattleshirt ended up on top with John's head in his hands. He smashed it against the ground, then wrenched his visor open. If I had me a dagger, you'd be less than I by now, he snarled. And they pull him off of John, and they're like, he threatened to stab you in the eye, and if he had a dagger, and John is like, he does have a dagger. Look, he just didn't use it. He didn't mean.
John gets up and is like, said. well fought. Like,
he's gonna cop to it, but it just doesn't look great.
No, this doesn't look good at all.
And then they get interrupted by Clytus, who has arrived with a letter from Ramsay Bolton.
Yeah, he comes with a raven, and John automatically is like, "Oh, from Stannis. Is it about Deepwood?" And Clytus is just like, no, and just hands him the parchment. And then John can see that it's sealed with hard wax, so he knows immediately who it's from. Yeah. And it turns out that it is, long story short, it's a wedding invitation or a wedding announcement. It's an invitation to everybody to come bend the knee, and also an announcement that Ramsay is going to be Lord of Winterfell, currently Lord of Hornwood, and that he's marrying Arya. And that's really the news. That's the news you can use. He is set to marry Arya Stark. And John says out loud, "My little sister."
Yeah.
And then almost immediately tries to retract that because somebody says, "Your sister, how old is she?" And he thinks to himself, she can only be 11 by now, but says out loud,
I don't have a sister, I only have brothers.
Yeah, only you, only brothers, only you. Yeah,
I felt bad about that.
This is horrible. This is a horrible moment.
Yeah. He's trying to imagine, because he does not know that this is a fake Arya. So he's just like imagining the way that Arya will behave and assuming that she is going to be hurt terribly.
Yeah.
Understandably, like from what we know of Arya. Yeah. He's trying to think how they even got her into this position at all. How are they going to make her go through with the ceremony and everything? Like, how can this possibly be? And everybody is like, are you gonna say anything? And he just walks away, kind of overwhelmed by everything. Yeah. And this is when we have this really weird moment. He is feeling like, I need to get some air. I need to have some time to myself. He's taking a walk and thinking about Arya and everything. And he goes toward the wall, and he's got Ghost with him. And he feels a person behind him, and he can smell them. And it's Ygritte. And he turns around and he sees her. And then he says Ygritte, and she replies, "Lord Snow." And it was Melisandre. Yeah. It's a really weird moment.
Yeah. The sound of her voice jolts him back. And then he's just like, "Oh, it's you. I thought you were somebody else." And then he's staring at her, and he's thinking to himself, like, how the fuck did I think that this was Ygritte? Like, they don't look anything the same. She's taller, she's thinner, she's older. That makes no sense that I even mistook her for a second. Never mind as completely as I actually did. But all he says to Melisandre is basically, "You don't have gloves on. You're going to lose your fingers."
So prosaic. And she's like, "Oh, I don't have to worry about that. I work for a fire god. Cool. Does nothing. It's cool."
And then she
says, I can't tell what was happening here. Like, does she want him to see Ygritte? Is she attempting to trick him? Why? Either her glamour doesn't last, or she doesn't want it to last. What was the point in setting him wrong-footed here?
I'm wondering if, because ultimately the end of their interaction is that she's propositioning him, and she doesn't come out and say it explicitly, but basically it's like, we could make magic together.
Yep.
If you wanted to. Because what she's saying to him, and what she's here to say, is that she knows about his sister, and that all is not lost yet, that she's seen in her fires that your sister is going to come to you. So I don't know if this glamour is if she's attempting to suggest to John in some weird way that I could be Ygritte for you if that's what you need in order, you know what I mean?
Oh,
Like
maybe.
but
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I don't know. I don't know.
I like that. I'm willing to accept that as an answer. And yeah, it hadn't occurred to me because, like, again, she doesn't say it.
Mm-mm.
So because she doesn't say it, I'm not sure if John is picking up on the fact that she could be Ygritte if he wanted. So
Yeah,
it's not really something that he's taking into account when he gives his answer, although I don't think it would make a difference.
I don't think that he's even taking that into consideration. I don't think it has occurred to him at all. So I don't know if Melisandre is just sort of like hoping that she's planting a seed, or if she is underestimating John's discernment. Right? Like, or overestimating his discernment. You know, like she thinks that this subtle hint will mean something to him, but it's not gonna, because with John, you gotta just kind of, you gotta say the things, you gotta say the words, John, you know?
Yeah.
But and then this goes from her telling John about what she's seen about his sister to being like, oh, can I touch ghosts? And John is just like, you probably shouldn't. And he's about to tell her, like, you know, how he doesn't like strangers. And it doesn't even matter, because she's just like, he's not going to hurt me. And she calls Ghost, and it says she made the word a song. And Ghost just goes right on over to her and nuzzles up on her hand and is all in her robes. And this disloyal ass dog. Yep, I'm calling him a dog.
Brutal.
It's just cozying up to her like they go way back. And John is like, what the fuck is all of this about?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a really weird moment where, like, he calls to Ghost and Ghost turns and looks at him and he thinks that he's looking at me like he's a stranger.
Yeah, John is like, the fuck? That's so weird. Why is he acting like this? And then Melisandre says, while she's scratching Ghost behind his ear, you know, your whole place here, the wall and all this place is a strange place, but there sure is a lot of power here if you would just use it. You have power in you and in this beast, but you resist it, and that is your mistake. You need to embrace it and use it. As if she is hip to the fact of what John is and what his connection to Ghost really is. Which, I mean, if she's about that magic life, I wouldn't put it past her to be able to sense it.
Yeah, certainly possible.
And I don't know if we talked about it or not, and I'm getting my Rattleshirts confused, but the new Rattleshirt, the one that John just fought, he's also a warg, right?
No.
He's not?
You're thinking about Varamir.
Okay. Oh, right. That was the one that was the warg. Okay. Well, never mind. That just poo-poos the whole theory I had about maybe how Rattleshirt ended up in the position that he ended up with Stannis. But never mind on that then. But back to this moment with Ghost, it wouldn't surprise me if she's able to sense, you know, when other magic is around and afoot.
That would make sense.
Meanwhile, John is like, but I'm not a wolf.
Yeah, you are, dude. Relax. It's fine. Everybody knows it. You know it. I know it. Everybody knows it.
Except for him.
And he's thinking about, like, there's a moment where he turns to her and he just feels she has power.
Mm-hmm.
The thought came unbidden, seizing him with iron teeth. But this was not a woman he cared to be indebted to, not even for his little sister. Dala told me something once. Val's sister, Mance Raider's wife, she said that sorcery was a sword without a hilt. There is no safe way to grasp it. A wise woman. Melisandre rose, her red robes stirring in the wind. A sword without a hilt is still a sword, though, and a sword is a fine thing to have when foes are all about. And she says, 9 crows flew into the white woods to find your foes. 3 of them are dead. They have not died yet, but their death is out there waiting for them, and they ride to meet it. You sent them forth to be your eyes in the darkness, but they will be eyeless when they return to you. I have seen their pale, dead faces in my flames, empty sockets weeping blood. You do not believe me. You will. The cost of that belief will be 3 lives. A small price to pay for wisdom, some might say, but not one you had to pay. Remember that when you behold the blind and ravaged faces of your dead, and come that day, take my hand. Take my hand and let me save your sister.
Yeah. And that's
the chapter.
Yeah, that's her ending offer. And earlier she had said to him when she's talking to him about the power that he has and that Ghost has, and he's denying it. She says, I can show you your power. And then she goes into this whole thing about the Lord of Light made us male and female, 2 parts of a greater whole. In our joining, there is power, power to make life, power to make light, power to cast shadows. And he says, the way she says the word shadows seem darker. The world seems darker when she says it, which is a really fucking hell of a sentence. The world seemed darker when he said it. But, and she's like, yeah, every man has a shadow on the world. Some are thin and weak and others are long and dark. You should look behind you. And she says, the moon has kissed you and etched your shadow upon the ice 20 feet tall. And it's a big ass shadow that he sees when he turns around and looks against the wall. And she's wants to make some shadow babies to save Arya. That's the same speech. That's the same speech she gave Stannis. She's out here making shadow babies, but anybody she thinks might have power in them.
Yeah, she's definitely got her eye out for anybody who's like captain of the football team. All right, so next chapter, Davos. These are pretty short chapters this week, actually. Now that
it was like 25 pages between the 2 of them.
Yeah, which works out great because I don't feel well, so perfect. So Davos is being kept in a cell. Yes, he's being kept prisoner, but
it's cozy.
The whole vibe is like not bad. I really do enjoy. There's this guy Garth who just brings it here, porridge for the dead man.
I was just going to bring up the same thing. That's like the worst part of his entire treatment is this guy refuses to say his name, just calls him Dead Man. If that's the worst part of your being jailed experience, you're having a very good experience.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Not bad at all.
So he's got a privy in there. He's got a fireplace with like a kettle. And he asks for paper and pens, and he gets
it, and he's well aware that there are like more traditional dungeons available here. Davos knows that they have like torture cells, so he's just like, they could have put me anywhere, and yet here I am.
Yep, exactly. This, even the food he gets, it's like good shit. You were getting what?
He's getting like fresh made bread. He's getting
shrimp. He was getting. I thought you were saying I was getting.
No.
Were you getting hungry reading about this food? But no. Okay. Sadly, no.
Yeah, these accommodations are better than what Davos had on his own ship. They're better than what Salador Stan has on his ship.
That cracks me up a little bit.
It does, right?
I just feel like living on a boat, I don't get the appeal, man. It seems like it just must suck in every direction. I
used to harbor a fantasy of living on a boat,
not
a harbor, ma'am.
I thought you did it on purpose.
I did not do it on purpose.
I'm so sorry. You used to harbor a fantasy.
Oh. But like a houseboat situation. I'm so defeated.
You just had to take a second to mourn.
It's just like Like, I don't even want to talk anymore about it. Like, I'm just, I'm so embarrassed.
I'm so sorry.
Um, but yeah, like I never wanted to live on a boat that was actively sailing around because that just seems like a nightmare. But
Yeah.
like a cute little houseboat in a kind of nice town that would have a marina that would accommodate a houseboat. I went through a period of being like, you know what, that sounds like that would be dope.
Yes.
I could get
agree.
into that. And then I accidentally found a whole reality like flipping show that was basically people who lived on houseboats, and I was like, oh, I thought that this would be like, this is way more out of reach than I had even imagined.
Oh, bummer.
Because something about living on a houseboat in popular culture has a little bit of a like low class kind of twang to it, if you know what I mean, you know?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So I had sort of extrapolated from that it would be like economically reasonable, but that is not the case.
Gosh, yeah.
Like, I don't know why
Yeah,
people were
it's
trying
like
to act like
tiny
it's,
houses.
yeah, right. Like people were acting like, oh, it's so fucking tacky and, you know, and trashy to like, oh, you live in a houseboat. I'm joined. That's expensive as fuck. What are you talking about?
Yeah. Actually, I didn't mean to make that connection, but there are tiny house episodes where one of the options they go look at is a houseboat sometimes. And
Mm-hmm.
thing I don't like about houseboats is the docking situation. You are like right up next to the people beside you.
Oh yeah, you're
in a
all
way
up in
that,
there.
yeah, like it's so much worse than even an apartment. You are closer even than you would
Yeah.
be in an apartment.
The few times that we went out to my father-in-law when he still had his boat, we would go down to it, and I would always be amazed at how tight it was at the marina.
Yep.
Like, Jesus, these little tiny slips in between each boat, like calling it a slip is fucking accurate.
So he's like, you know, kind of not having a terrible time in that respect. But the thing that's killing him is that he's pretty sure he's going to die at any second.
Oh, yeah.
And he just
Yeah.
doesn't know what's going on. So
Every
it's just
day
this awful uncertainty.
he wakes up thinking this is going to be the day that they're going to take his head in his hands, to the point where he's just begging the gods that, like, hopefully they take my head before they take my hands. Like they can't be so cruel as that they would do it the other way around, right? Like these people aren't that terrible. So it's a weird position to be in. You're right. Like he's got like a sort of level of comfort that's enviable, but the uncertainty of just how much longer he has to live, or he has to live, is clouding everything. Every moment of every day is just, when are they coming to drag me out to take my head off?
It just sounds awful. It's like getting it's like when you get bad, or you are waiting for the results of a test or something, and you just have to wait and see, and everything sort of hinges on it. All your plans, whatever it is, it all depends on what these results are. But there's nothing to be done. You just gotta fucking sit and wait. You can't speed it up. There's, you know, I hate this feeling. It's the worst.
Yep. Current status accurately described.
Yeah, I guess that's true, huh?
Mm-hmm. But
and
so, oh, go ahead.
There's just this point of like, because Garth, you know, I'm thinking like Garth doesn't sound so bad, but there's a point where it says his years as a smuggler had given Davos Seaworth a sense of when a man was wrong. And Garth was wrong.
Wrong. That shit jumped off the page.
Right?
Yeah. And I don't even know if you need to be a smuggler, but to get that sense. But maybe you do just need to have an experience with people who are wrong in real life, so you know what that energy feels like and smells like and looks like and sounds like, so that when you encounter it again, you're like, oh, I know exactly what the fuck that is. So I guess maybe that's what he means by his experience as a smuggler, is that he's, you know, encountered some very unsavory folks in the past. But
yeah, I think so.
That fucking sense of someone, and I love that it's just wrong. That's it.
Yep.
There's not like a real
Which
deep
is somehow
dive.
way creepier.
It
like
really is, because it leaves so much open to the imagination of like wrong, like how, like what do you think he actually engages in, but not actually putting it on the page is so effective.
Although, I'm saying this, but Garth had apparently earlier, once Garth brought his ladies by to introduce them to the dead man. The whore don't look like much, he said, fondling a rod of cold black iron. But when I heat her up red hot and let her touch your cock, you'll cry for your mother. And this here's my Lady Lou. It's her who'll take your head in hands when Lord Wyman sends down word. Davos had never seen a bigger axe than Lady Lou. And, I should have known, but, like, there was a part of me that just felt like, this is some bored guy just talking shit. Like, I wasn't really getting from it, like, this is a dude who's a sadist and enjoys this. So that being added on top of it, I was like, okay, so this is different than I thought.
That's true. There's a second goaler. There's a second, I don't even know how you say it. I don't want to use it. There's a second.
It's jailer who,
I forget his name, who is not quite as objectionable as Garth is. And this is the guy that, like, spends time talking to Davos and answering questions, and they, like, drink some wine sometimes. And so between
this dude just also seems just kind of bored, but he takes it in a different direction.
Yeah, what is this guy's name? What is this other guy? I'm looking desperately for
Bartimus, Sir Bartimus.
Oh, okay.
Why did you get that sound to your voice?
Because as you were telling me, I saw it at the same time, and so it was just sort of like a double whammy of like seeing his name and then hearing you say it. It was just a weird way I chose to react to that information. Sorry.
It's okay. I thought you were like, oh, I remember this guy, and I was like, you do? Why?
No.
You said it sounded dread. So we get some, like, information about the Wolf's Den, which is where he's being kept. It had been raised by King John Stark to defend the mouth of the White Knife against raiders from the sea. They had passed it down, and then eventually it says the Grey Starks had lasted the longest, holding the Wolf's Den for 5 centuries until they presumed to join the Dreadfort in rebellion against the Starks of Winterfell. After their fall, the castle had passed through many other hands. And yada, yada, yada. Then a long, cruel winter fell. The White Knife froze. Even the firth was icing up. The winds came howling from the north and drove them slavers inside to huddle round the fires. And whilst they warmed themselves, the new king come down on them. Brandon Stark this was. Edric Snowbeard's great-grandson. I was about to say greatest grandson. He had a t-shirt that said greatest grandson. Him that men called Ice
I'm so sorry. I'm picturing that as like their sigil and shit, like all their banners. The greatest grandson. It's like a guy with 2 thumbs up.
Oh my god. So, he took the Wolf's Den back, stripped the slavers naked, and gave them to the slaves he'd found chained up in the dungeons. It's said they hung their entrails on the branches of the heart tree as an offering to the gods, the old gods, not these new ones from the south. Year 7 don't know winter, and winter don't know them.
I don't know why. I love that line a lot, though. I just like the way, not them new gods, not those motherfuckers. They don't know shit about the kind of life I lead and what I need to get by in my world. I really like that. Your gods can't help me with the way winters are set up. I need.
And this, like, it transitions into Davos writing letters to his wife and his sons. And it's just so sad. Like, how do you write a goodbye letter like this?
I didn't think it was enough.
Of course not.
I really didn't. I mean, listen, why I have such complicated feelings about Davos that I always forget I have until we end up in one of his chapters, because I really, really do love him as a character and I really enjoy his POVs, but I have such questions about some of his choices and his allegiance to Stannis that we've discussed, at length in previous episodes. And this sort of, he's got all these kids. He has these younger children that he doesn't even know what to say to them in the letters because you haven't been home, sir. You've been out gallivanting these streets, running the streets with Stannis when your ass should have been at home.
Doing his duty.
Yeah, I know. He's doing everything to provide for his family. And granted, and he mentions it in his letter too, like by being with Stannis now, his family has been elevated. His family, as he says, they have a name now. You know, we're like quality people now, but I will never ever get past the part of myself that's my own baggage that's like, if you don't take your ass home and stop running these streets, you got a wife and 14 kids, you better go home. And I know he doesn't have 14 kids. But I mean,
he's got plenty.
He's got
definitely
sons, and I'm assuming no daughters, because I never hear shit about daughters, it seems like.
No, I don't think he has any daughters.
But the bit about not knowing what to say to these young men, these sons of his that he doesn't even know because he's been gone so long. Also, I always forget, or either it hasn't come up, but I'm pretty sure it's come up, but I just keep forgetting that he has a son named Stannis.
Yes.
One of his youngest sons is named Stannis.
And the other's name is Stefan, which is apparently Stannis' father's name, which I didn't know. Thank you, Austin Arminio, for that one.
Oh, that's fun fact.
Yeah. So, really doing honor to the Baratheons there with the namings.
What if he has any kids? And I bet he didn't have any sons named Robert. Does he have a son named Robert?
I don't think so. I'm pretty sure if he did, Stannis wouldn't have hired him.
Or if Stannis would have made him change the name.
Yeah. Like, I wonder if
Davos would have did it too.
His wife gave birth like an hour before he was about to go in for his job interview. And he was like, by the way, we named our son Stannis. Stannis was like, all right, well, that's commitment. It's like when brands online get tagged in somebody getting a like tattoo of the brand on them.
Oh, right.
The brand gives them a free thing. Have you seen that?
Is it worth it? It wasn't really worth it. Though I did see a quick segue into tattoos. I saw a girl and she's got a QR a QR code? That's what you call those things, right?
Yeah.
She's got a QR code tattooed on her, I think on her upper arm. And when you scan it, it plays Never Gonna Give You Up by Rick Astley.
Wow, commitment to the bit.
Isn't that the best thing you've ever heard?
Wild. I love this idea. I gotta get a QR code for a song. I gotta pick a song. I gotta be real, like,
I love it.
Think that over.
And it was a black girl, and I know that's not supposed to matter, but for some reason, I just made it so much funnier to me because I feel like of all the things your preconceived notions, you're not going to expect to get rickrolled by this like 25-year-old black girl with this tattoo.
Yeah, agree.
I just feel like it's so perfect.
Yeah, I definitely assumed it was a white person when you were telling me that story, so that would be a real sneak attack. Oh God!
If you could get one, what would you get? What would your QR
I don't know.
code
That's what I'm
to a song?
thinking. Like my instinct is always. Well, I was gonna say "Minuteman" by Missy Elliott because that was just like my jam for such a long time. But I feel like now I want it to be something from the Renaissance album.
Oh well, if we're going for like sincere,
yeah.
If you're going for something that really means something to you, then yeah, 100%.
But if I was going for a jokey one, probably Move Bitch. Yeah, Ludacris would be the one, more than likely. It's just such a good time.
That Ja Rule song. Did you
Or maybe it would. No, you know what it is. It would just go to an air horn. It would just be a song.
That's what it would be. You're right. There it is, ladies and gentlemen. There it is. That's exactly perfect. That's it. That's the one.
Oh,
That's
God.
the one. Oh, shit.
Anyway, okay. What would yours be? Do you
Oh
know?
my God, I have no idea. My brain is like scrambling. I have no idea what it would be. Like, I can't even think of anything to make as a joke.
That's it, right? Like, if it's a joke, it's either an inside joke where nobody else really gets
Right.
why that's the song, or it's something like so obvious that everybody gets it. And that, I don't know if I'm willing to do.
Like, a smart person would be like, well, obviously you would get a code to the podcast, right? Like, that's
Oh
what
my
we should be
God.
saying. But, like,
there is something about that sounds like the most, like, bro-y thing I've ever heard. I have a QR code tattooed on myself that takes you right to my podcast. Like, are you kidding? Never! Absolutely not! Oh, like, you're right. It probably would be the smart thing to do. But no.
But like, this did not occur as even an option because, like, who does that?
Who would ever? Ugh.
Oh, shit.
Anyway, okay, so at this point, this dude shows up and is like, hey, will you please come with me? And he's like, will I please come with you?
Oh, I love
What do
this
you
so
mean?
much.
You're just asking me? What are you
Davos
talking
is
about? Who
like,
are you?
I am very confused by that fucking nice word you just threw in there. Like, why the courtesy, sir? I implore you, why the courtesy?
And this guy says, oh, I'm Robert Glover. And he's like, oh, aren't you supposed to be a Deepwood Mott? And he's like, some bitch came and took it from me.
Mm-hmm.
And then,
he's like, first of all, he's like,
what?
that's my brother's seat. So I need you to understand that we're not, all Glovers are not the same. And that's really rude of you.
But yeah, he's like, she came and took it, and then Stannis sailed on in and got it back. So a host of Freys came to moat Kaelin with Roose Bolton, and he demands homage and hostages. Homage? Homage? Words?
Words? What are words?
And witnesses to the wedding of Arya Stark and his bastard Ramsay Snow, by which match the Boltons mean to lay claim to Winterfell. Now, will you come with me or no? And he's like, well, I guess, what choice do I have? Stay here with Garth and Lady Lou? Who's Lady Lou? One of the washerwomen?
This fucking cracked me up. This killed me because it lets us know that Garth keeps that sort of sadism for the right audience. He's not just out here telling everybody the kind of shit that he looks forward to.
He's like, yeah, the washerwoman, she comes to visit me all the time. Lovely lady. That's just my cock, though. Her hands are very warm. So he goes out with him, and they have traveled through all of these, like, passageways. And as they're heading through, he's like, nobody can see you because you're meant to be dead.
Yeah, he just keeps saying that. By the way, you're supposed to be dead.
And eventually he is brought out into a lovely, cozy room, and Lord Manderly is there having some wine and offers for Davos to join him. And Davos, understandably, is like, hey, forgive me, I'm not really gonna touch food you're handing me. And Lord Wyman's like, yeah, look, okay, that's my bad.
He's like, I have to treat with you because my lord commanded it, but I don't have to have a drink with you, sir.
Yeah.
And my first instinct, because I can be like so overly concerned with like hurting people's feelings and acting like air quotes appropriately and not being rude, my first instinct was like, if you don't sit down and take that wine that he's offering you. And then I had to check myself and be like, okay, wait a minute, Rashawn. These people have been
Yeah,
holding him
this is
against his will and threatening
this
to
is
take
some
his head
energy that
off.
I see in a lot of stuff where somebody who's like got a beef is there. Somebody that comes in and like the is it beefer and beefy? The beefer is the one who has the beef.
I don't care for either of those.
You don't like beefy?
No, please stop.
You know, one of them is acting real polite, and the other one's like, "I'm never gonna, just like do anything you say because you murdered my parents." And I am just so very much like, just hear them out. Yeah, they murdered your parents. The past is the past.
Why are you holding on to old shit?
Exactly.
Oh, it's so bad, dude. It's so bad. And it's funny to me because I'm like, in my personal life, I am like that until I'm not. But I, as a fully grown adult who's mildly self-aware, I have no idea where that line is because it's forever changing. So I never know when a person is going to hit that, oh, it's like that? Okay, we're done. And then we're done for fucking ever. Like, ever. But up until that line, I am just like, oh, they killed your parents, but they were extenuating circumstances. Or that was 2 months ago, or whatever. Like, I'm coming up with whatever excuse I'm coming up with to give somebody like a second chance,
Yep.
And then all of a sudden, like a flip will switch, and I'll be like, oh, that motherfucker is dead to me, and I will mean that shit like nobody's business.
I'm definitely like somebody who, like, I tend to hold a grudge a little bit up until I'm just sort of bored with it. It gets to a point where I'm just like, oh, it takes a lot of energy. I mean, he sucks, but like, whatever. And I just sort of let it go. Yeah. And if they like turn up in my life again, I'm not going to be like, what are they doing here? Usually there are some exceptions. I'll just be like, oh, this guy, God. Okay.
Yeah, no, you just like, I get mad that I get reminded that you exist. Like, I take it as a personal affront that I was reminded that somebody that's dead to me is not literally dead. Like, oh, they're still alive? How? I clearly told the universe that person was dead to me. How are they still alive?
When I say someone is dead to me, I mean dead, period. They should drop dead. Why are they still alive? This is an affront.
I get so upset. Everyone's like, that feeling when like you have somebody blocked on Facebook and you don't know.
And you see people replying to them.
And you see their name, but you can't exactly. Yes! And I'm like, oh, that motherfucker's still around. And he's on this thread with me right now. God damn it.
I get so annoyed. Like, I don't like knowing that I have mutuals still with somebody who sucks. That always bums me out in general. So, yeah.
And I know that somewhere somebody is saying the same shit about me, which is why I don't feel guilty about saying it about them.
Listen.
Because I know somewhere somebody is like, that fucking bitch. Every time I see her name, I get angry. I mean, it's the world we live in, y'all.
It's true, though. So this conversation goes a different way than what we may have expected. Manderly tells Davos, everybody thinks you're dead. There was some criminal we beheaded. If it makes you feel better, he was bad man. He looks a lot like you because you just are kind of common looking. Sorry, but that's facts.
The way he slipped that shit in there. You're just real regular. You are regular. You're just fucking...
regular. Oh. And it turns out that he isn't falling for the bullshit from the phrase. he knows they murdered his son. He knows they're lying out their asses, and he's like, I don't even think they mean for anybody to believe it. They just know that if anybody says they don't believe it, that's a problem.
Exactly. He has got a lot of energy that I was not expecting. I know when we talked about like whether I thought Davos was really alive or whatever, I think I had theorized that maybe Manderly was trying to pull a fast one to get his son back, but I wasn't sure of like the logistics of that. And it seemed, at the time at least, it seemed like it would be really difficult to pull off because he had so many Freys at court, like, you know, that he's surrounded by them. So when we have him talking about that exact situation in his chapter where he's like, you saw who's here? These motherfuckers are everywhere and they're watching me. They're like always trying to catch me or sniff out like a whiff of treachery or however he phrases it. Yeah, he is 100% not here for the Freys or the Lannisters. He even says like my fucking maester was a Lannister.
Yeah, which was like, I didn't remember that, but that is brutal. He's like, I can't even send ravens out saying shit because I can't trust that he isn't going to be reporting on me.
Right.
He's like, just really penned in.
Yeah, he is. And to top it all off, they had his fucking son. So, and Davos is just like the whole time, he's like, well, that was quite the performance, sir. I know Oscars don't exist in this universe, but trust me when I tell you, you should get one because that was an impeccable performance.
I really love the fact that his daughter, who he had sent out, who was screaming at him, like, how dare you? Don't you remember what you owe? He's like, she is a badass. She didn't care. She had no fear. Did you see the way that she fucking just?
He's so proud of her.
Me? This is so great. Like,
yeah,
I love that so much.
Yeah, we find because she wasn't in on it, and then we find out that the other one who was because he makes apologies for, I forget the women in the moment, but there was the one who would not get off Davos's neck the whole time. Yeah, and I think she wasn't in on it, but then there was one woman there.
No, she wasn't she?
You might be right because he's telling, he tells, because I can't remember which lady said what. He tells Davos,
oh, Lady Leona, she's a foolish, frightened woman, and wireless is her life. So you're right. She wasn't in on it, and she's just
And then, the one who did know what was going on was a woman named Winifred, but I don't remember exactly what Winifred did or said in those scenes. But she was the one who did know that this was all basically just a giant work. It sucks that I can't remember what her part in all that was now because I'm really curious.
But for now, I really. When treating with liars, even an honest man must lie. I did not dare defy King's Landing so long as my last living son remained a captive. So the thrust of this is I needed to be able to prove that I was like loyal, and thank you so much for turning up because it gave me the exact opportunity I needed to be able to prove it. So that they would
you don't even understand how happy we were that you decided to show up on your bullshit. Like, we could not have planned this if we had the resources and the time and we couldn't have made this work any better. So thanks for that. And then he says something which I thought was really important. He fucking what's his name? Manderly says, I'm fat and many people think that makes me weak and foolish. And Tywin was probably one of those people. And I just really am glad that little line is included because we got, like, people will not stop talking about how fat this dude is. Yep. Like, he's fat. He knows he's fat. I know he's fat. We all know he's fat. Yep. And it doesn't undo, some of the low-key harmful or just harm that's sort of done when you go on and on about a character and you make like that their greatest flaw is it's just how fucking fat and disgusting they are and they can't even sit on a horse and you know what I mean? It just was on and on and on and on and on. I just really appreciated that line and and it's not what I would say is maybe enough, but because it's true too. Like, let's just keep it a buck. You know, people make lots of assumptions about a person's character based on their fucking size, you know.
Yep.
They must be lazy, they must be stupid, they must be like of low character, otherwise they wouldn't be that fat. That's a fucking real thing.
The shorthand usually was like, if it was a kid that was fat, they were spoiled.
Mm-hmm.
And if it was a grown-up that was fat, they were just bad.
Undisciplined.
It remains to be determined, but yeah.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Any number of moral failings.
Yeah. The thing that I found really interesting, actually, and it's something that comes up in a series that I'm covering, Red Rising, for Spoil Me. I've been commissioned to read. And there are different groups of people who are bred to do certain things by color. And their skin is actually the color that they are. So it's been, like a million years since now. And over time, they have created like different subspecies of human being. And the ones on top are golds. And the golds have this like sort of slogan about how everything about the brand that you make for yourself and the face you show the world is about control. And that you are never, ever out of control. Whether that is not drunk, you don't get over emotional, you don't overeat, you don't get too angry. Everything about the face you show is at your mercy. You show it because you have decided to show it. And you put it away because you have decided to put away, because nothing ever has hold of you.
Mm.
And it got me really thinking about white culture, because so much of it, you and I have been talking a lot over the years with like me shopping for trips and for my wedding about the fact that so many of the clothes that I go for that are bigger, bolder, louder, all the women in the reviews are Black women. Mm-hmm. And it's only when I'm going for things that are a lot more simple basics that I see white women in the reviews. And then, like, just dancing. The culture of dancing with white people, like I was watching Pride and Prejudice the other day, and the dances, it's like they're barely dancing. They they go up onto the ball of their foot, or they sway an arm like very slightly to the right and left, but it's all so underplayed and subtle. And it made me really understand, like, oh, I think that's what's going on. It is about control, but I didn't realize that was the thread that like ran through all of these weird things about not being too much, like, and
there's
eating
a whole
as
thing
well.
about that. Yeah.
Being like, it's easy to be like, well, it's showing that you don't have discipline. That doesn't hit for me the same way as like the food controls you, and that's shameful. You don't have control over yourself, and that is shameful. And I was like, oh, that's okay. It all falls under the same sort of heading, really,
There's a whole thing to dive into around the very thing that you're talking about. I was reading something and somebody was talking about the minimalist sort of aesthetic and how it's rooted in white supremacy. Like, it was somebody taking like things you don't think, are rooted in white supremacy. I can get there in less than 6 steps, that kind of thing. And they referenced this guy whose name I don't remember, in this movement called purism, and the idea that keeping things very like simple and clean, and dealing in your whites and your beiges and your grays, and how all of that would speak to the world on your behalf and tell the world the things about you that you want them to know, that you're good, that you are. And and then she goes into much, much greater detail about the guy himself, because he has a terrible history, it turns out, when you Google him, and all this sort of stuff. But yeah, it's definitely tied, and in it, and it's in response to the cultures of what people are calling like the global majority or the global South, that are just filled to the brim with bright colors and very fragrant foods, and boisterous music, and dancing that involves the whole body being involved.
Yeah.
And how whiteness is just taking all those things and saying our whole identity is just going to be the opposite of what they do.
Exactly.
And that's what the entire culture of whiteness is based on. And you see that even within like what you would consider white cultures or white peoples, and like indigenous culture across Europe, and how that all got flattened as well. It got distilled, and all the color was wrung out from those cultures, and all you got to hang on to when it was done was this non-existent thing called whiteness that's not even real. Not a good
I
trade.
went through the gamut of self-control, and all I got for it was this lousy whiteness. So anyway, yeah, so this this little paragraph, it ends with, "You took a great risk, my lord," Davos said. "If the Freys had seen through your deception, I took no risk at all. If any of the Freys had taken it upon themselves to climb my gate for a close look at the man with the onion in his mouth, I would have blamed my jailers for the error and produced you to appease them." Davos felt a shiver up his spine. I see. I hope so.
Manderly is like, I'm not completely an idiot now. Come on.
Yep. He's like, this wasn't like, I love you so much. It was, I'm doing what I need to do. Please keep that in mind. And it turns out that like they are in the midst of a party, a welcome home party for his son, and he can hear the shouts and dancing and music and everything going on.
Yeah, this is when Manderly starts talking about the phrase in general and how they're everywhere, and he says that it feels like his home is infested with roaches, and he can feel them crawling all over him. Yeah, he's angry. Like, Manderly is pissed.
He's so pissed. He is
all his chins trembled. Like, George Martin, come on, dude, come on. Really?
Can't help himself. He just can't.
Really can't.
And he says, like, we're I get that you like want me to throw him with Stannis, but he's your king. He's not ours. And Davos is like, Rob's dead. What are you waiting for?
Yeah.
And Manderly's like, Rob's dead, but there's another son of Eddard Starks who's still alive. And they bring out this kid, Wex, who we met when we were in Theon's POV. And he had been an Ironborn, and when the sacking of Winterfell happened, he hid because he knew they were coming to get him. He hid in the heart tree really high up so they didn't go like climbing to search for him. And he witnessed Bran and Rickon and Hodor and Asha. Was Asha with them at that point? Yeah, because Asha goes away with Rickon. Right?
Yeah. It's the four. It's Bran, Hodor, Jojen, and Mira, and then Rickon and Asha or Osha.
Yeah, Osha, maybe. Osha. Yeah.
But I had forgotten clearly, because why would I remember? Completely forgot about this kid, and that there was a witness to that. And it's funny because on the show, yes, I'm going to mention the show, we don't hear of Rickon I'm trying to remember, unless and I could be forgetting, but in my memory, he doesn't show back up until Ramsay shows up with him.
I think that's correct.
Right.
Yes.
And he had grown too. He was like all tall and shit.
Yeah.
He had quite the growth spurt.
That whole thing was so weirdly handled.
So
He's
for
running
me,
in a straight line.
oh my God, zigzag anything. Remember the internet was in shambles.
Yep.
But
Dude.
so as a reader, this is, all, I mean, it's all new information to me, but like as far as like being something so different, I'm like you had said maybe an episode or two ago, we are really starting to get into a bunch of shit that's going to just be like, for me, like, what?
Yeah.
And
Definitely.
this is one of those moments. I got really, really excited. I don't know. And I said this last time, and it's probably going to keep coming up because every time I get excited, I immediately get tampered with. But does this go anywhere though?
Yeah.
Because the timing and how much book is left, and there's not a follow. You know what I mean? So
Yep.
but there's still plenty of book left. So I'm not saying that Davos is going to find Rickon in this book, but that he might be going off on this adventure that I didn't see coming, that was not hinted at to me in any way, is really exciting. I just don't know if I'm going to have egg on my face and everybody is grimacing as I say how excited I am because y'all all know something else that I don't know, right? But there's a good chunk of book left, so I think that maybe I at least get to see Davos start off on this quest, and I'm not going to be foolish enough to think that he actually finds him, because I don't think that that's the case. But I'm here for this side quest.
Nice.
Yeah,
I really love that this kid sees everything. Like, the fact that there was a witness left.
Yeah.
And he can't talk, so it takes forever to question him.
It's so good. Right? It's so good. What does Glover say? Something like, it is really hard to talk to him but he can say yes and no. And once you figure out how to ask a question, you can get a lot of information from just a yes and a no.
Yep.
And they're still teaching him to write, so he can only write a few things at this point. So they really are.
He's a real Ellen Payne
girl.
He is, like Ellen Payne can't read or write, and he can't like talk.
Oh my God! Imagine if somebody just decides to start teaching Ellen Payne his letters. Jamie would be fucked.
Oh my God! Yeah. You better cross your eyes there.
Not for nothing. He could understand yes and no.
Eyes.
Oh, that's not what I meant to say. What did I mean to say?
Cross your eyes isn't anything.
It's not anything at all. What was I trying to say?
I said it, not you.
Oh, you said it. Okay.
God, Rashawn, we are a real pair.
Sorry.
Holy shit. I said a thing, but you're sitting there being like, what did I mean?
Usually
what are we doing?
Usually you're correcting something that I said that didn't make any sense. So I just assumed that that's what was happening.
It was me. I correct myself just as much as you. I stop and go, wait, is that how you say that? All the time.
So you were trying to cross what? T's and dot your I's?
Yeah, I think that's what it was. I think I was going for that.
Okay. That's an easy mistake to make.
I guess. Just feels really.
You are also hopped up on all kinds of cold medicine.
I have a lot of cold medicine in my system. Yeah, that's that Dayquil.
But doing that quill.
I got a purple drink. What should I forget?
The lean.
Yeah,
oh God. Oh my God. I was gonna say about Ellen Payne though, this bit about Manderly being like, but once you figure out how to ask a yes and no question, you can get a lot of information. And I was just like, oh, I hope that never occurs to Jamie.
Right?
Because that has simply never, like, he feels so comfortable talking to Ellen Payne, and like, to be honest, it never occurred to me when we were reading those chapters to be like, somebody could just ask him to nod yes or nod no, and he can fucking do that.
Yeah.
So Well, fingers crossed for Jamie. Eyes crossed for Jamie.
Sean, I think that's what actually I meant. I think that might have been it. Not cross your eyes, but it's supposed to be cross your fingers. But then I got it muddled up with dot your eyes.
There we go.
I think.
All right.
I think that's what happened. Mystery solved. I am just as foolish as we thought, but in a different way. So then we start talking about fucking Ramsay Bolton. And there's a note from Austin here about how Lady Hornwood is actually Manderly's first cousin. Her maiden name was Manderly.
Oh.
So what happened to her is extra offensive to him because she was family.
He's telling Davos about the hunting, and Davos is like, his sport, because I think Manderly refers to how Bolton doesn't kill everybody at Winterfell. He kills who he kills, but then he takes all the women and marches them to the Dreadfort for sport. And Davos is just like, his what now? And Manderly has to explain what he does with the hunting them with hounds and then raping them and then flaying them. If he's feeling generous, he might slit their throat before he flays them, but it really can go either way. And then, he talks about how Lady Hornwood ate her own fingers, they say. And then he says, the Boltons have always been cruel. Like, that's just how that's how they get down. It's just in the gene pool. But this Ramsay is something special.
Yeah, he's on an entirely different level.
Yeah.
He calls him a beast in human skin.
Yeah. And then he leans in and he's like, and between me and you, the fucking Freys are no better.
Yep.
And I was like,
I really
glad
do
somebody said it.
Exactly. They speak of wargs and skin changers and assert that it was Robb Stark who slew my Wendell. The arrogance of it. And I love this. He says, and now, my lord, he had hoped to hear Lord Wyman say, and now I shall declare for King Stannis. But instead, the fat man smiled an odd, twinkling smile and said, and now I have a wedding to attend. I am too fat to sit a horse, as any man with eyes can plainly see. As a boy, I loved to ride, and as a young man, I handled a mount well enough to win some small acclaim in the lists, but those days are done. My body has become a prison more dire than the wolf's den. Even so, I must go to Winterfell. Roose Bolton wants me on my knees, and beneath the velvet courtesy he shows the iron mail.
Listen,
I shall go by bard litter. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I'm just going to say, remember that moment in the Red Wedding when he lifts up and shows the mail under his outer clothes to Catelyn when they're up on at the table?
Oh, I didn't think of that. That's literal. My goodness. All right. The Freys came here by sea. They have no horses, so I shall present each of them with a palfrey as a guest gift. Do hosts still give guest gifts in the South? Some do, my lord, on the day their guest departs. Perhaps you understand, then. I have been building warships for more than a year. Some you saw, but there are as many more hidden up the White Knife. Even with the losses I have suffered, I still command more heavy horse than any other lord north of the Neck. My walls are strong, and my vaults are full of silver. Old Castle and Widow's Watch will take their lead from me. My bannermen include 12 petty lords and 100 landed knights. I can deliver King Stannis the allegiance of all the lands east of the White Knife, from Widow's Watch and Ramsgate to the Sheepshead Hills and the headwaters of the Broken Branch. All this I pledge to do if you will meet my price. And Davos is like, well, I can tell him, but he's like, no.
You're not listening.
I need you to agree to the thing. The bastard of Bolton claims Greyjoy murdered Sir Roderick during a parley. Wex says no. Until he learns more letters, we will never know half the truth. And here, he came to us knowing yes and no, and those things can go a long way once you find the right questions.
Yeah. So
And
this is when he finds out that no, it was definitely Ramsay who killed Sir Roderick and the men of Winterfell, and that he slew all the Iron Men. And this is all stuff that Wex saw. He cut
yep,
down men that were trying to yield. It didn't matter that they had dropped their weapons; he killed them anyway. And this is when Manderly tells Davos about how Wex climbed up and hid in a tree and how they searched for him, but it never occurred to anybody to actually look up or climb a tree.
right.
And then finally he hears people talking, and Wex looks down, and this is when he sees 6 people. There's 6 people. 2 of them Ned Stark's murdered sons. And Davos is just like, all right, hold up. How could he tell you that they were Ned Stark's sons? Now, come on. And Manderly is like, it was, and he doesn't say it was very simple, but it turns out it was quite simple. He says, with chalk, he drew 2 boys and then he drew 2 wolves. And I was like, oh, that is really all it would take, isn't it?
Yep. One nice thing about these sigils,
right?
It's easy to communicate as long as you're talking about like nobles.
Mm-hmm.
And
Long as you are like versed in what they mean, they're really, really effective for communication.
Exactly.
In a way that I think I have really been underestimating and underappreciating through the entirety of the series.
I just love the fact that there was a witness to this whole thing because,
Mm-hmm.
without this, and how much is his testimony going to really count to anybody else? Who knows? But it like Manderly believes,
Right,
and he's the one with something to fucking some resources here,
right. And
So,
Manderly is convinced that as long as they find Rickon and his wolf, right? Because you need both, because the dire wolf is
Yep.
what's going to be the proof that Rickon is who he really is. So,
Yep.
I need you to bring them both back.
And Davos is like, all right, well, where should I go? Like, I don't understand why you need me. You have ships, so why do you need a smuggler? And Wyman's like, yeah, the thing is, I need someone who knows how to like slip around and not draw attention to themselves.
Yeah. My guys, they're just regular river guys, They don't know anything about, they, first of all, they haven't even gone that far. I need somebody who's been out in the waters and knows what they're doing out there. How to, like you said, how to get by, how to not be seen, and all that stuff. Where is he? Because it doesn't tell me. They tell Davos by this Wexen this fucking knife. He's very good with it. He's very, very good.
His only language.
Mm-hmm. And he whips it at a map. And then grins, so that tells me it landed where he wanted it to land. And wherever it lands makes Davos think to himself, for half a heartbeat, just send me back down to the wolf's den. Fuck all of that. I'd rather go back downstairs to the fucking cell. And then it says, in the den, the prisoners ate porridge, but there were other places in the world where men were known to break their fast on human flesh. So I will say to you guys that are listening, something about cannibals sounds familiar. Someone at some point has talked about a place or a period in time where people did that. I am racking my brain trying to remember what the context was for that, and I cannot remember it.
I can't remember the context, but I will tell you there is an isle called Skagos. And that's the one that it's popularly theorized. Like, yeah, that's the one that was mentioned,
Oh.
So.
Ooh, I don't want Rickon to have gone there. Why would they go there?
Yeah.
Why would she take him there? That's no good.
Maybe the theory for her was like someplace that other men are never going to go. It's frightening enough.
I mean, that's true.
I'm going to take my chances that maybe the rumors aren't true, but they're believed, and that will be what protects us.
That's actually really smart. or it could
Yeah.
be incredibly foolhardy. I guess it really depends on how it worked out.
Indeed, yes. That's often the way.
Yeah, and to be fair, like just because they were heading in that direction doesn't mean that they made it there. So, but yeah, like if that's where he's going, and like I said earlier, if he's about to embark on a new adventure, because I don't see how he says no, right? He can't say no to this.
I mean,
I guess he could.
it's not
say,
in Davos' nature that we have seen when there's somebody offering something great for Stannis for him to ever
Exactly.
like turn it down.
Right. I feel like he's going to have some questions like, well, who's going to let Stannis know this is what I'm doing? It can't be Manderly because he just told us that he has to be really careful with the kind of ravens that he sends out. So I feel like Stannis is going to have some concerns about Davos is going to have concerns about letting Stannis know where he is and what he's up to and why he's doing the thing. But I don't see him saying no. I guess he could say yes and then get a ship and then just do whatever the fuck he wants to do, but that doesn't seem like Davos. That's not how he gets down, really. If he gives his word and says he's going to do a thing, I think he tries to do the thing to the best of his ability, right? He's just sort of noble in that way.
The way you said "in that way" sounded so like.
Oh, I didn't mean it to sound like a thing. I didn't mean it that
like
way.
You're so tired
like
of
it was
him.
Tiresome, but no, I didn't mean it
Yeah,
that
very
way.
much so.
But yeah, so I am cautiously excited about this turn of events.
Yay!
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what this how the story plays out and how much of it I actually get before the book is over and womp womp.
Indeed. Well, all right, so it's time for us to say hi to new patrons real quick. Yeah, it's time. This time we've got Random Tangent. That's the username I used. Random Tangent.
That is amazing.
I feel like that's pointed, and I accept it.
I mean, I feel like that is a great honor. I appreciate what you're doing there. I'm picking up what you're putting down. I'm here for it.
And the next username is D-A. I decided not to use a sound effect for that because it would be too easy to not hear the name on top of the sound effect. But thank you very much to Da and Random Tangent for signing up and becoming patrons. We really appreciate you, and I hope that you are enjoying the all the content, the community, everything like that. Reminder to everybody, if you are, wanting to stay abreast of what's going on with Unspoiled, please go to patreon.com/unspoiled and sign up even as a free patron. I've been having a lot of computer issues and have been having to delay recordings and shift things around. And I am posting on there every time there is a change. So if you are the kind of person who waits for things to come out at the time that you're used to, and when it doesn't go up, you're like, but why isn't it here? Follow me there, and then you will never have to ask that question again. You will always know why. And you can also go there and become a paid patron and support us with money, which we all desperately need, which would be great.
True. It's really
so
true.
Money would be helpful.
Hard out here for a pimp, I hear.
It is, though.
It really is. And for us non-pimps, it's even harder.
Yeah, I'm looking at having to replace my computer, and you guys, evidently, it's been almost 5 years that I've had this, and that's about the right time, according to the folks online. I feel like I just got it.
That is, to me, is so unacceptable. And I get it. Like, it's been normalized that, like, oh, it lasted 5 years. That's really good. Y'all, it's not. It's not really good. It's not. For what these things cost. that's not good enough. But we've all
Yeah.
been conditioned to be like, well, that's outstanding. 5 years, that's great. You need a new one because software is updated and technology changes, and yeah, that's fine if you want to get a new one because things have changed. But I shouldn't have to get a new one because mine just decided to shit the bed right on time.
Yep.
I'm also one of those people that believe in this stuff being built to die in a certain number of years because I just believe that's a real
Planned
thing.
obsolescence.
Yeah, I am an adherent to that particular faith.
Well. But yeah, I hate to fucking have to make a GoFundMe every time I need like a high ticket item, but y'all, I'm barely making it. My patrons have gone down. Income from my advertising has gone down since I took down Harry Potter quite dramatically, and all of my other bills, as are with everybody else, are up. And it's just been really, really difficult lately. So if my computer dies, that's my livelihood. I don't know what I would do if it really just stopped working. So it's I'm in this position now where some folks are really like, well, what if you just didn't get Apple because it's less expensive? And it is less expensive, but it would also mean me learning a whole new way of doing literally everything I do. And that is so overwhelming sounding. And I also have an iPhone and an iPad and an Apple Watch. Like, I'm in the ecosystem. And everything being connected it simplifies it all so much, especially because I jump from my desktop to my laptop to complete things. I really do not want to have to leave Apple. And I just, like, I don't know, I may have to, but I just don't. I'm already, there's so much that's like in upheaval and that I'm trying to get a handle on in my life already, that making my job extra difficult for a while sounds like more than I can deal with.
I already know that when mine finally shits the bed, I'm going back to a PC. Like I got a used one from you, and then I think a new one from a crowdfunding several years ago.
Yep.
And but I can't I'm gonna have to go and get just a fucking a PC laptop, or well, I'll probably get a desktop. And it's gonna suck because I'm in the same position as you with my other ancillary devices are all Apple, but my Apple shit is low budget Apple shit. Like my Apple Watch, $25 through my insurance.
Right.
And it's also like a fucking first generation. I never replaced it. My phones, them bitches be coming from Amazon, gently used. I have never owned a brand new iPhone out the box from wherever people go get their phones from. I don't know how y'all be doing that with your real phones, with real money. I don't know.
My phones I usually get on a payment plan from Verizon. So yeah,
I go to Amazon.
I think my desktop was refurb when I got it, or maybe it was my laptop. I buy refurb from Apple a lot.
Yeah, but, that's the way to go.
Yeah,
but even that's still fucking expensive because Apple is banging on. You know what? They're getting ready to get sued for like a whole bunch of billions of dollars. So maybe you won't even have this concern. I've only been keeping up with like fragments. It has something to do with a smart technology. Maybe their watches or something. Somebody is coming for their neck though.
Ooh.
Yeah, you would have to Google it and look into it. And it's been going on. It's been dragging on because Apple was doing well with like getting the cases dismissed or something. But just this last week, some kind of ruling happened. It was like it's definitely the case is going to go forward. So I don't know if they're going to settle or what. But the dollar number that they're being sued for is crazy, and something to do with I think somebody's accusing them of stealing their tech or something. I only have, like I said, broad strokes from like snippets of news stories. You'd have to like look into it yourselves if you guys are interested. I don't know if the case even has merit or not. I don't know. But All that to say,
Well,
either they're going to get way more expensive or they're going to come down a lot in price, one or the other.
and they've made some like jumps ahead with the type of chips that they use for like their processing. And apparently that's like the main reason that my computer is having difficulties, is that it's on an old Intel chip. And now they have these like M2, M3 chips that are really powerful, and it's like this proprietary silicon thing that they've got going on that PCs do not use yet. So, you know, reading reviews and stuff, Apple is, while not necessarily outright faster, the use of energy is way more efficient, and their machines are keeping up and quieter, and just overall seem to be like they're prioritizing different things than sheer speed. And for me, the sound issue is something to take into consideration. Everything is on mic. If I've got a tower that's whirring like a jet engine in the background to keep up with recording on GarageBand simultaneously with Zencaster while I have Crowdcast open, like that is going to come into my recording and be a huge headache for me. Just, you know, there's a lot to think about, and I have my feelings that I may need to set aside, but some of it's also facts, not just feelings. So we'll see where I wind up, but it's just tough because, you know, I always wind up getting, basically anytime that I shop for any tech, I try and get one step up from the very bottom tier of what's available. And to a degree, you just can't fight the fact that things are going to need to be replaced eventually. But I would like to not have to skate so close to the very bottom that it becomes obsolete that much more quickly. I really would like a mid-range, like Apple came out with something that's called Apple Studio. And it's not only got better processor and more RAM and everything, but also has a lot more ports, because ports are like going out of style. I don't know why.
Yeah, they really
Everybody's
fucking
like,
are.
Ports,
Why?
And I'm like, I need those though.
Even my work joined. Like I got they replaced my laptop for work, and I got the new one. It doesn't have any fucking ports hardly.
Yep.
Like, what the
fuck?
It's
so annoying.
I have like an external dock station I have to use, and the ports are on the dock station. Like,
yep. You gotta get like a dongle adapter thing to like, yeah, it's infuriating. And the Studio has like, I think it has like 8 ports, something like that. So it would do that. It would be likely to last longer than just like 4.5, 5 years, because it's kind of ahead of the game. It's the newest addition to like the lineup.
Firstborn child for that shit. It sounds amazing.
It's about like 1,600.
Jesus.
For the like mid lower tier of that line, but it comes with like some power to it. Really would probably set me up well. It's the kind of thing that if I were somebody doing graphics, it would likely be adequate for that. I don't, and I hope to one day be able to, but I'm not going to buy something predicated on like that.
Right.
Eventual dream. But yeah, so anyway, all this to say, I will likely have to make a fundraiser for getting a new computer. If you're interested in contributing, if you like, especially if you're somebody who can't have a monthly donation via Patreon, but you want to help out in just like a one-time thing, consider that kind of contribution. And I am open to suggestion from folks out there who know about this sort of thing, on your opinions on whether I should stay with what I know and feel comfortable with, or whether I should sacrifice that for something that's a lot more budget friendly. I'm not guaranteeing I will actually listen to anybody's advice, but I am willing to take those thoughts into consideration. I always like as much info as I can have. And if you are somebody who has like the Apple Studio setup and you've been using it, I would like to know how you feel about it, whether or not it seems like the huge step up that it sounds like it would be. Because I'm working on an old Intel processor. I have 32 gigs of RAM because I got this one loaded with extra, but that has proven to be insufficient, and likely it's because it's just old hardware. So yeah, keep your eye out for that, everybody. Appreciate you all so much. And until next time, toodaloo, motherfuckers.
Bye, guys.
Joffrey, Cersei, Walder Frey, Meryn Trant, Tywin Lannister.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.